My name is Henrik Larsen. I'm the Vice President of Sourcing and Indirect Procurement in AP Moller-Maersk Group. A large Danish conglomerate, but by international standards, probably a small conglomerate, mainly within oil offshore and transportation. The future of business commerce for Maersk is, I think, as with anyone else, a big question mark. We have volatility in commodity prices. We have an oil price that we do not know where will end up. So the future for procurement in this world is to stay close to the suppliers and to stay very close with our internal business units, knowing their strategy and actually pushing their strategy to know where we are going to be in the future. Spend management for us is crucial. We need to know what we buy, where we buy it, at what prices, and we need to let our suppliers into our business to come up with all the good ideas they have as to how we can improve our business. So even though we are talking cost and we have a cost agenda together with our suppliers, it's also important to let them tell us what they can do for us and not necessarily let us tell them what they should do for us. I think it's important that procurement pushes the envelope and reinvent itself, because the outside world is doing that every day. And if we don't stay on top of our game, the world would just have moved and we haven't followed. One of the top challenges for us to execute is talent, to get the right people on board and to develop them and to keep them on board. What's next for us is staying on top of the innovation agenda. All the data we have in our businesses with our suppliers, that we really harvest the knowledge and the wealth of information that is in that data. So get structure in our data and make it something usable for our category managers, for our sourcing experts, so that we transform vast majority of data to knowledge we can use together with our suppliers, together with our businesses, to drive us to the next step.
Please welcome AP Moller-Maersk, Head of Global Sourcing and Procurement, Henrik Larsen.
Thank you, Ted. And thank you for the opportunity to be here today, speaking at Ariba Live, to tell you a bit about who we are at Maersk, how we drive strategy in procurement, and how we enable it through the use of Ariba. I'll take you through a number of slides on who we are, what we do, you saw a little on the introduction, and how we challenge ourselves to make procurement a proactive strategic enabler, and then how we embed it through technology to actually drive it with the business. So who are we? We are, by Danish standards, a big conglomerate. By German and US standards, probably a small conglomerate. We have a heritage of steel and oil. We are in 5 major businesses: in ocean transportation of containers, Maersk Line. We are in oil, a very small oil company, but nevertheless. We have drilling rigs. We own and operate ports and terminals across the world. And we have 4 businesses that are all in the shipping part of business. So this is who we have to work with in AP Moller-Maersk in procurement. Make sure that they have a cost-competitive environment, that they have access to what they need, and they have it on time. We have a spend of around $25 billion in AP Moller-Maersk. And procurement needs to engage both on the operational expenditures and on the capital expenditures. So $25 billion on operational spend and $10 billion of investments over the next couple of years. This is the agenda we are looking at. We are focused with category management teams towards the business, so that categories that are relevant for the marine industry are handled by category managers who knows that particular category and who deals with that with the suppliers and with our business and the needs on a day in and day out basis. To cut across and to make sure we enable this, we have a global strategic sourcing team. We have our indirect category management. We have a global HR community for procurement. And we have an extensive use of e-sourcing that I will get back to. We believe, in short, that everything we source can be done electronically. And we try to strive to get all the $25 billion onto the platform so that we can manage it together with the business, together with our suppliers. So this is the world we operate in. We have 550 people across the globe in procurement, and we sit in the business or close to the business, close to our suppliers, where it's relevant, meaning where we spend the money and where the suppliers are. As you can see, the numbers are quite big. When we look at spend coverage, we are getting to the 85% of spend covered. But you can challenge me anytime, what do you mean by spend coverage? How well is it covered? How detailed do you cover it? And yes, there's a long way to go before we can actually say we have done this to perfection. I don't think we will ever get there. We have an ambition of doing 2,000 e-auctions this year, covering well above $1 billion of our spend. So we want to make sure that we use all the tools available to us to drive sourcing, to drive the agenda with suppliers and with our business through e-enablement. So this is our world. When we look back and look at our vision, we cornered that when we established group procurement some 12 years ago. I said, what should be sort of our driving ambition? And we came up with the phrase, every dollar spent is spent professionally. We test it now and again and say, is it still relevant? And it's extremely relevant. It's relevant because it doesn't say who spent the money. Anyone that has a dollar that leaves the AP Moller-Maersk company should be able to look themselves or their managers in the eye and said, this was professionally spent. This is what we want to achieve. Not that we spend it, not that we control it, but that anyone who sees money leaving the company, they can sign off and say, this was done professionally. So that we enable the business, our partners, even our suppliers, to get to that every dollar spent is spent professionally. Nothing more, nothing less. But as we dig into it, it's a tall order. But we challenge that vision now and again and say, maybe it's time to revamp it, but it fits and it still holds water. So this is what we work with. When we look 5 years back, we were just standing after the crisis, as probably many of you, looking into 2009, not knowing where the heck the world was going. Procurement was immediately brought to the front line to say, take cost out, take it out fast. So we were the cost agenda people. We had to prove, as many of you probably had to, that taking cost out is something procurement can do, and they can do it well. There was really no time to reflect, just take out cost. We mobilized a lot of people in the business. We mobilized e-auctions for the first time, and we executed. And we took out more than $1 billion of cost in 2009. Whether that was a success or not is really a big question, because some of that money probably floats back. Some of those discussions with suppliers you will have to have again when the crisis turns up in growth mode. But what it did to us, it gave us the license to operate. So looking back and saying, okay, we came out proving that we can take out cost. Now what should we then do? Because if you can only talk cost, you will only be invited to the table when they talk about cost. And for procurement, there is so much more interesting out there to be part of. and you want to be part of those discussions. Otherwise, you are not a full-fledged procurement organization. So we decided to embark on a strategy, and we called it Good to Great, inspired by books that were available at the time and still are. And we said, it would be fantastic if we can now take what we are good at and bring it to great. And looking 5 years to where we are now, I won't say we are at great. It's a moving target. Great is an aspiration. And that's also why every dollar spent is spent professionally, still holds water. We went from $400 million in savings to $850 million in savings. It's a metric. But it's an important metric. It is our license to operate. If we get fluffy on this, I don't think we will have that license. It's the license to do all the fun stuff. It's the license to do supplier relationship management. It's the license to do innovation. We had no category boards, so we had no governance around important categories like cranes, containers, paint, all the stuff that we need to buy and we need to critically have access to. We have that today. We have excellence teams around new buildings, and we have widespread involvement on CapEx in all our businesses. We have centered our procurement organization to the business, but we are still not great. So we wanted to challenge ourselves on what should we be to become great or to move us further on that path. And instead of sitting around in the management team challenging ourselves on the few incrementals you can do, we decided to do something new. We wanted a fresh perspective. We wanted to put some pressure on ourselves, and not by the usual, and excuse me in this forum, bringing in consultants with the big decks of this is how you should do it, or the big benchmark studies. We can get that. We have all of that, and it's still good inspiration. We wanted the nitty-gritty. We wanted the insights. We've done a lot of benchmarking with companies over the years, not in our industry, because that's where you learn. We learn from the Procter & Gamble's of this world. We learn from IKEA. We learn from Carlsberg. We have exchange programs with these people for our procurement teams. So we wanted to pose some questions and get some outside-in people to answer them, or at least challenge us on those. So are we missing the opportunities out there? Are procurement becoming self-contained in what we do? Is it the right focus areas we have? And can we step change our value contribution to the business and to our suppliers? So we went to Procter & Gamble. We knew Rick Hughes, that we have met a couple of times, and said, Rick, you are now retired with Procter & Gamble. Wouldn't it be a fantastic idea if you would sort of make a 100-day plan if you were our new CPO? Take on that challenge. Come to Copenhagen and see what you would do. We talked to London Business School and say, we need to talk with the best academia in supply chain. Who are they? And they said, you should talk to Mike Lewis at Bath University. So we called up Mike and said, you want to challenge us? We said, we also need an internal perspective. We want to talk to our COOs of the businesses and said, ask them, what do you want from procurement? Not that you necessarily get it, but we would like to know what you want. And then we can have that discussion. So those were the 3 challenges. On each of these, we had some very interesting outcomes. So Rick, he met with our group CEO. He met with business unit CEOs. He met with strategy. He met with 30 of our people, did detailed interviews. He met with our suppliers in Europe, in the US, and he made his report. He found out that we were doing a lot of good stuff. But again, that was not the objective. The objective was to find out what didn't we do well. Category management and relationships with suppliers to foster innovation. We were not the best in our game. And funnily enough, we sort of knew that, but we've turned the blind eye towards it. Because that's very easy to do when you sit in a management team that know each other very well. Yeah, we know, but we're doing well. We're doing all right. He honed it in. He said, no, you're not. You need to be better at this. So we now have a category management excellence program to get us to where we should be as a company our size, and leveraging our size, our value, and our position in the market. We need to be able to drive value in between market events. We were told by Rick and by the suppliers he interviewed, you guys are very good at going to market. You've got a good sourcing process. You might even have a very aggressive e-auction strategy. But once you've done the contract, we don't see you guys anymore. And we might have a lot to offer. So we need to be in the face of our suppliers, talking to them about optimization, talking to them about innovation. If we leave them for 3 years in a contract cycle and only come back when we need to go to market, you don't have the relationship, you don't have the access you want to have with your suppliers. So that was one fantastic learning. Then we went to Bath. And you might ask, what the hell does a Formula One car do on that slide then? Bath actually have a very tight relationship with the Williams team. So we had one day with the Formula One team. And that's why we coined the phrase, the race never ends. But getting to see people working on a Formula One car, how they drive innovation, how they are focused, how they collaborate, how they optimize their processes. They invest 10,000 hours just to get 0.1 second per lap. In a 50-lap race, that's 5 seconds. That's enough to win the entire race. If they can do that, is there something we could pick up in our business on collaboration, on process improvements? For sure there is. This is not to copy what they do. This is to get the inspiration of what people working dedicated with a very focused agenda, what can they achieve when they put themselves to it? If we can learn just a bit of that in our world, we can take it to the next level. And here it's about being better than peers. It's not about being better than Formula One. It's about us winning in the marketplaces we are operating in. That's what it's about. So if we can take those ideas, bring into our world, and make us better than our competition, then we are on the right path. So a couple of other things they also taught us, that why don't you outsource? Our standard answer to that is, but we have offshored in-house. But I think we are gradually waking up and say, there might be other people out there who can do part of your procurement agenda better than you can do yourself. That's a scary thought, but yes, of course. So we should collaborate with people who can do parts of what we do better than we can, and we should let them do it. Of course, with the right relationship, operations model to do it. But excellent learnings that we are now embedding in our strategy for the next couple of years. Thirdly, we looked at our COOs and said, what do you want from us? And they actually they echoed some of the same stuff. Not because they had insights to it, but they also said, you're very good at going to market, but you are leaving us cold at the doorsteps of the suppliers in between market events. You need to be better at this. You need to digitize. We need to get access and transparency in what we do together with you. So that's on our agenda now. So all that input we put into our framework of our strategy, and we find our roadmap to every dollar spent is spent professionally. We still want to look at a $1 billion savings mindset every year. Not necessarily on cost or price, but on value to the business. We want to have a competitive asset base, obviously fully operational at all the times, and also access to what we need in our businesses. Category management is a cornerstone now of what we do. Same as supplier relationship management. CapEx is a must if we want to be competitive in what we acquire that needs to have a lifetime of 10 and 15 years in our fleets or in our oil industry. And we need to have a global team that is outstanding, that gets inspiration from all the good practices that sits with a lot of you people and your organization in this room. So we're going to continue that. At the bottom of this, enablement. We can do all this stuff and put it on fantastic PowerPoints or semi-fantastic PowerPoints. But if we can't operationalize it, if we can't embed it into the business, it's not worth anything. So the last couple of slides is how we do that and how we use Ariba to do that. Technology being the key enabler, but it's also about not confusing. A lot of people say, oh yeah, e-sourcing, it's all about auctions and getting the cheapest price. No, it's not. And I know I'm probably preaching to the choir here, but it's a lot more than that. We have turned in the Ariba platform to our project management tool. And I can tell you that's a bit of a scary experience. Now we sit in the management team with full insights into the sourcing pipeline and the potential savings we will look at the end of the year. And right now, we don't like what we see. And people get all scared. I even get a little scared. But I tell them, but we are doing exactly as we did the years before. Now we are just seeing what we do. It's a bit like riding a bike on a mountainous road that falls off to the left with a blindfold on. Now we're just taking it off. Yeah, now it's scary, but it was before as well. But now we can see what's going on. We can take action. We can put other projects into it because we know that with the portfolio we have now, we're not going to make it. So we can optimize. We can reallocate our resources. As we stand right now, we are looking at projects that will generate just exactly $950 million year end. That's also a bit scary, because as someone gaming this just to make the management team happy, I don't know, but this is what we manage by, to have everything in there. So 10, 15, $20 billion, all transparent in the project pipeline. From there, we will develop our strategy, so we can also see categories, projects. Where are they? Are we just about finding out what we buy, how we buy it, or are we actually in the go-to-market phase as the last step of the process? And finally, execute, meet the suppliers, meeting the marketplace with auctions or other forms of engagement. I think we have taken Jacob and his team e-auctions to the next level. It's not about price, it's about total value auctions. It's about putting all the parameters in there that has an effect on that product into the auction. Let people compete on what they are best at. If that's the warranty, if that's the contract length, if that's access to capacity, if that's financing, put it in there, bid on it. And whoever has the best overall package, they will win the business. So we are taking, I think just like NetBank, categories that we thought was impossible to take to the market on e-auctions. We are doing that now. Vessel chartering, satellite communication, stuff that was not done before. Finally, we are also selling off stuff in procurement. And we sold our headquarters in Gibraltar Farms, New Jersey, last year on a forward auction. I can tell you the real estate market in New Jersey, they didn't appreciate that. But every real estate we put to the market today, this is how we do it. And we get significantly more value from doing it this way than the normal way through a broker. Not that we do not need brokers. We need intelligence. We need intelligence to do the right strategy. But we need to let the market perform what the market is best at. So that's how we use e-auctions, total value auctions, to optimize the results. And all of this through Ariba. Thank you for your time. I hope this is giving you a little insight to how we run procurement in Maersk and how we enable in our businesses. Thank you. I wish you a couple of pleasant days, insightful, and I look forward to talking to many of you in the breaks ahead. Thank you.